Now we're dealing with a digital age where a really good record could get missed easily in the saturation of the digital world. And it could be as good as or as big as a record by Kanye West or Dr. Dre or whoever that people look up to on a competitive level of that quality, but it may get missed if it's not marketed. So I would say marketing music in the digital age is the other challenge, being able to make sure that the work you put out, the presence is felt, people are hearing it, seeing it. You know what I mean?
Arkatech Beats.
Yo, so we got a legend in the building. You know, an incredible, legendary producer. I'm honored to have him on the show with us. Consider him a friend of the show. We got the legendary Baby Paul in the building.
Baby Paul in the
Yes,
building.
sir.
Yes.
Peace and blessings, fellas. Arkatech Beats. Salute to both of y'all for having me, man. What's up, Juggernaut? What's up, Mike D? Peace.
Let me just add on. This man right here has produced for some serious legends in the building. I'm talking about like Nas. I'm talking about Fat Joe. Talking about the whole entire Duck Down camp. And that alone is incredible. I'm talking about AZ. Oh man, like the list really goes on when it comes to this man right here. And you know, I really wanted to get him on this show and just kind of just make sure this man got his proper due, his proper respect.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of young producers, a lot of people in this game right now do not really know the history, and it's just this is a platform where we're gonna all of the producers that rocked with us, all of the producers that had an impact in the game. I want to say thank you for your contribution to this hip hop game. For real. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man.
So kind of get this thing going, man. Like how did you even get started in this industry?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. So check it out. I started my career professionally in 1995 with the first Smif Wessun album. But I was kind of like paying my dues, as they say, intern in recording studios, learning the ropes, building a network, getting my sound and my production, techniques together. I used to run in a recording studio, Power Play Studios in Long Island City, New York. That's the studio that Keras One did the original Blueprint album. Coogee Rap did the Let the Rhythm Hit Him album. Eric B. and Rakim did a lot of their albums, including the album they had, The Ghetto, and a few other classics on that song. I might have said it back. The Rakim album was Let the Rhythm Hit Him. Coogee Rap album was Wanted Dead or Alive. So
okay. Right.
Yeah, there we go. So I was around during that time. We're talking like 89, 90. You know what I'm saying? In Long Island City. I'm showing my age. I'm gonna be 54 years old in September. That's okay. I'm not ashamed to say.
God bless. Nah, man.
I'm a grown ass man, though.
Right, man.
I'm right there with you, brother. In September, same thing. So
yeah, and September 17th. I'm a Virgo.
8th Virgo. So that's how we know. That's how we know what it is.
It figures, a Virgo vibes. But yeah, I started then, and I want to shout out Dr. Butcher, a DJ out of Queens, that one of my very good friends to this day. I used to go to his studio sessions with Coogee Rap, and that's how I started building a network at Power Play Studios. Got an internship, and I used to sit in on all these sessions and help the engineers. This is when we were recording at 2-inch reels, where you had to assist the engineers when they set up a session, break down a session. You use an outboard gear. Outboard gear means when you hook up, EQs and effects modules to create the sound that you're trying to do on the record, from vocals to music and stuff like that. And based on the experience I built from that, that's how I started building a network. And then shout out to D Nice. I met him back then, and he was still down with Boogie Out Productions. And eventually I started getting my equipment up, getting my vinyl collection up, because, I come from that digging in the crates era, the sampler era that was inspired by Marley Marl, who was one of the pioneers of sampling. A lot of people don't give him his credit, but I'm going to give him his credit.
Real
You know what I'm saying? And then it morphed into a relationship I built with Mr. Walt, because I'm from Jamaica, Queens, New York, and he used to run the Music Factory record store in Jamaica, Queens. Okay. That's how we became friends, and that's how the Beatminerz started formulating. First, it started with Evil D and his brother, Mr. Walt, and because of me and Walt's friendship, that's how I became a part of the fold, leading up to when the first Black Movement project came about, when they first got picked up by Chuck Chill Out, they put out Who Got the Props, and then it morphed into the stage album. And, I shared ideas, but, I was just paying my dues and learning the ropes and being in the sessions and giving ideas. You know what I mean? I didn't professionally have my first record out until the first Smif Wessun album, The Shine.
But the Into the Stage album, man, what was that like, man? Because
I gotta ask you about that, because that shaped my time. I was getting ready to go into college with that. And
yeah,
that record is one of the records that really made me want to do what I'm doing now. So, for you to be part of that, I definitely need to know, like, what really went into that, what you saw when that was going on.
Yeah, that's my alma mater. That's where I started, and it all started from my relationship with Walt as one of my best friends at the time. And I after the Who Got the Props record took off, and the label that was behind them, Nervous Record, wanted to build a whole body of work leading to an album, which became Into the Stage. We started recording songs, and originally we was recording at Calliope Studios in Midtown Manhattan. I think it's in the 30s back then. And we was inspired to use that studio because we was fans of De La Soul and a lot of the native tongues, when they was coming up in the game. And I think De La Soul recorded a lot of their first album, 3 Feet High Rising, at Calliope. So we started working out of Calliope, building a catalog for the album. And it shifted over to D&D Studios, which is the infamous D&D Studios that we all know of. That, Beatminerz was working out of, DJ Premier was working out of, Easy Mo B was working out of, and all the classics you heard around that time frame was coming out of that studio. So fast forward, like, by the time we developed a lot of the music for that first album, I wasn't hands-on producing anything. I just shared a few ideas that was developed by Ian Walt, and they took it to the fold. The only thing I contributed to was like background vocals when they was doing the remix for I Got You Open, the remix to the Barry White sample. All the vocals in the chorus, when he sings it, it says, "Go down." That's just all of us in the crowd just screaming in the record.
Yo, but, that's my favorite, like, remix from that time. That did, man.
And I gotta say this too, man, on the subject of Buckshot and Black Moon. Buckshot doesn't get the flowers he deserves for his influence on hip hop in that time frame. He was doing the street singing before Nelly, before 50, before Ja Rule, you know what I'm saying? And making street music cool to sing on.
Yeah, he did.
I feel like he is among the pioneers of hip hop that gave that style its voice from then let it become what it is now. You know what I'm saying? I have to point that out because a lot of people don't even really think about that.
But when we talk about like when you say Black Moon and you say Buckshot and you say how they don't really get, like, that's arguably one of my top 10 hip hop albums of all time. Like that whole album doesn't really get the acclaim that it should have. Based on what it did when it did it, because there was nobody that preceded it that sounded that way.
Yeah, it's true. That's Havoc of Martin. He was on the album. A lot of people forgot. He was on the last song as You the Man.
You the Man,
deep career. Shout out to him and rest in peace to Prodigy.
Word, for real. Rest in peace, Prodigy. That sound, that Black Moon sound, that Smif Wessun sound, man. Those filtered bottom ends, like. The way the production was right there was the drums were dusty. It was hard. It was, oh my God! Like I remember it to this day, man. It just like touched my soul. Like he's like, yo, you feel that? That just feels like the corner of every hood.
Right.
Like what equipment like what y'all were using? Was it just?
That's a good question, Mike. It's a good question. So very, very early. I'm talking about when I first started making beats and. Digging in the crates and just finding records and samples. I started with the SP12 Turbo, not even the 1200. SP12 Turbo had 5 seconds of sample time.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were making beats on that. And in this case, because you had to have an external, I think, Commodore disk drive just to save your files. Sometimes I used to make the beats in the machine and just save it in the machine. You know what I'm saying? Because if I turn it off, it's gone if I don't save it. So imagine that. So I had the SP12 Turbo, then I had the Kai S950, but then when I got my bread up, I bought the 1200. But the very, very first beats that I was making, leading up to when I did the Smif Wessun album, The Shining, was on the SP12 Turbo.
Wow. Like this generation has no idea.
No idea.
Like,
you hear the limitations, right, Mike? 5 seconds of sample time.
But look, but like I was saying before, what I had before, one of the things that I started out with was an Akai SO1. And that was a rack. And it had I think it had 10 seconds of sample time. But in order for me to get more sample time, I had to turn down the octave.
Right.
Like it was a little trick that I did was, okay, I was gonna go to each bank and turn the octave down on each bank. And then sample it slow and then turn it back up. So when I sampled it low, I got more sampling time, like another 5 to 10 second sampling time. So so it's these tricks with these limited machines that allowed us to be very creative. That's why some of these earlier records, like some of the tricks and stunts.
You're absolutely right. We're talking like you said, 5 seconds of sample time. And in my case, I would speed the record up, sample it, then tune it down. And then I had chops or notes or like a bass. There was a technique where you could take a note, a sub, and you could loop it in the machine. So imagine hitting a bass, just a note, and you loop it so it goes
right. Yep.
And then you could tune it with the pitch, the shift on the 12, and tune it so you have the notes, one note, but you tuning it to create the groove of a bass.
Yeah, I'm like a nerd right now.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. This is producer talk. It ain't just hip hop story. Producer talk.
And that's how hard it was to make music back then, man. People don't really realize how hard it was to get everything in tune, to get everything to loop properly.
Right.
Especially if you had stuff that changed speed during when you didn't have any time stretching that. Most things didn't have the time stretch like that. Or it took real long to work.
So it was like, man, it really was using sped up samples. Shout out to those that came later and made names for themselves with the sped up sample, but we've been doing that. You know what I'm saying? And then with the Kai S950, that's when I had more sample time. I had got it blown out, so I could have minutes of music. You know what I mean? And if I had records and sections of music that I would chop up, and I wanted to filter it, I would filter out, program the SP12 as the master. So I had that MIDI synced to the Kai 950, program the drums, sync the samples with the 950, and I have a whole full section of music to produce a track. You know what I mean? And I did the first Smif Wessun album like that. Songs I did Recognize, Home Sweet Home. Matter of fact, in reference to Home Sweet Home, if you notice on that track, the bass line that was inspired by Roy Ayers, I did that on 12, just bass notes. And I played it. So if you listen to that record to this day, it has a very sub bass.
Oh,
that was inspired by the groove of the record. I didn't sample the bass line of the record. I just replayed it, but I was tuned, a bass tuned on the 12. And then the rest was just the sample chops of the recording that I got from Roy Ayers. We live in Brooklyn, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's amazing. Out of all of the collaborations from then to even current, what stands out the most? Like what is one of the most craziest or moments that you've had in maybe in a studio session or
as far as recently, one of my favorite records off the last AZ album, Do or Die 2, is a song called Keep It Real. And, I kind of took the DJ approach the breakbeat approach, and I'll explain. The drum beat is a classic DJ break. Spoonie G love raps. Everybody that real hip hop heads know that break. You know what I'm saying? It's a dope classic DJ break. It's been used plenty of times by Public Enemy and many others. And then I took a familiar R&B record by Bobby Caldwell, who recently passed away, like not long after I sampled it, which was weird. Rest in peace to Bobby Caldwell. But I sampled What You Want to Do for Love, right? Mm-hmm. But I said, I want to do something different. Pac used it. A few other people used it. I didn't want to just use the bass line. I didn't just want to loop the whole song. So I took a section of the song, repeated it, and then had an end piece with the strings. And I just repeat that part. So it creates a very hypnotic groove. Right. And then I use like a move bass sound and layered little notes on top of that. And then I just chopped the drums from Spoonie G, and I took the go off. You know that classic. Yeah. And if you listen to, you just see how I pieced that together, and it just became a record. Soon as I sent it to AZ, he was like, "Yo, I want it." He liked that record because he loved classic hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That's going to inspire him to write immediately. You know,
that's ill. That's so ill. Keep going, man. I'm just like, I'm a hip hop geek right now.
And the funny thing is, that was the first record we recorded that ended up on that album. We recorded it years ago, way before everybody that's on the album, from Bink to Rockweiler to Buck Wild. We recorded that song like first, like years before the body of work that became Lord Die 2, came to be. And that's part of the reason why I like that record, because it stood the test of time. Wow. Knowing that I made that record years before, but he held on to it. Wow. You know what I mean? And if you listen to the conversation piece in that record, it's really going to touch a nerve. If you ever deal with people in life that don't keep it real with you, and people that are haters and people that call themselves their friends, but they talk about your back, or they ready to set you up or line you up, if you got homies that meet your girl and then they try to run through your girl when your back is turned, like that song is real prevalent to me. You know what I mean? That's one of the reasons why I like it so much, aside from the production aspect. I like the lyrical content that AZ came up with. And the other part of the thing I like about that song was the hook was this up-and-coming artist out of Toronto, Canada, named Keffer. Originally, he was supposed to be part of the OVO family, right? Drake's kid. But, he was building an audience of his own independently, locally. And DJ K Cut of Main Source introduced me to him because he was like, yo, he's an up-and-coming out of Canada. Check him out. Introduced me to his managers, like, yo, you want to do some work with him or help him get a deal, blah, blah, blah. So that's how we built a relationship. And when I came up with the beat, I was like, I want to get a hook for this. So I gave it to him. He demoed the hook, and I had the hook with the beat for a minute. Then I let A hear it, and then we came up with the record. You know what I'm saying? And what he wrote about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's incredible. Like how do you like stay inspired? Like, yeah, especially you know what I'm saying, Jug? Like in today's
game, it's like, it's not like it used to be. So definitely, how do you stay motivated with it all and keep it going?
I listen to all types of music. I don't just listen to hip hop or rap. I listen to R&B. I listen to contemporary. I listen to movie soundtracks and scores. I listen to alternative music, some pop music, reggae music, Afrobeat music. I listen to all types of genres of music and draw inspiration from everything. It could be the littlest nuances, instrumentally or sound effects or anything. Like, what's weird is I got an Apple Music playlist. I got to admit this to all the fans that's tuned into your platform. I got an Apple Music playlist of nothing but movie scores. I listen to everything from Superman score, Dark Knight, Batman,
some great content. Some great content.
He said the Superman, the Man of Steel. Low key, that's probably one of the hardest scores out there.
John Williams did Superman. He did Star Wars. He's a genius, bro.
John was, the scores that this man did. He's
a couple other amazing composers. I'm gonna throw all the names around, but like I just got a playlist of scores. You'd be surprised, fellas. You could just let that play. Let's say you're just working in your crib, cleaning the crib, or working online. Not necessarily musically working online, but just like emails and chats or whatever and handling business, doing your admin or whatever. Just let those scores play in the background, real low. You'll just hear stuff and it creeps into your subconscious, you know, and it gives you ideas. Even if you don't sample it, it might give you some ideas. Because it's mood music, you know?
Yo, that's funny that you said that. One time, we had taken the family to Disney World. Where was it? Like, it was Jurassic, one of them Jurassic Park. Was it Universal Studios or something like that?
Yeah.
Was it in Orlando?
Yeah. It was one of those.
That's good. My family just bought a property in Auburndale, which is like an hour away. And I was there a few months ago, and I'm going to go back later this summer. So I have never been. I'm going to go.
So I'm walking through, and you know, one of the events, and you know, they play the themes, the different score music to help give you the theme while you're in the park.
Right.
And while the family and the kids is doing there, like I'm there listening to this joint, like, yo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's the creative in you. I'm telling you.
And it's like when you're a real creative person, man, you could get inspiration from a lot of different places,
sources, right?
And not even and it don't even gotta be like it's something you were looking for. Sometimes when you're looking for it, it don't hit. But like you said, like you could be sitting back and you have it playing in the background, and you'd be like, "Wait a minute, what's that?" And
you start nodding your head. You start mentally picking the idea that's coming to you. All that. That's just instinctive, man. That's how the brain works, bro. It's crazy.
Wow. So all the listeners out there, man, when it comes to creativity, you can really get it from anywhere, man. And sometimes you got to really take a break and kind of, you know, do something else in order to get that creative aspect, you know, jumping again. But that's a jewel right there in the movie score stuff too. That's a whole nother jewel that a lot of people may not be really hip on. Me and Jump
we've been doing that.
When y'all get off this interview, just trust me. Whatever you're subscribed to, whether it's Apple Music, Spotify, just type in movie score. Pick out some of your favorite movies and the whole original score. You'd be surprised because some of the music is stuff you're gonna recognize from watching the movie that you hear just the music now, but it was already there in the movie. But now you're just hearing the instrumentation because what they do scores is they segment song for song. And it's just the music for scenes, right? So a scene in a movie that you remember, and then the music was in your your mind, your subconscious. Now it's just the instrumentation. When you play it, it's like, oh wow, I remember that part of the movie. That's fire. You know what I mean?
But you know what you say. But you know what I get from this also is the importance of music. You know how there's such a lack of respect for producers. You know, and a lack of respect for what we do. You know, especially with some of these new artists, they don't realize that, listen, without this music, you know, there will be no albums, there will be no radio, there will be no concerts, there'd be no, like your movies wouldn't have the impact without that score. These video games wouldn't have that impact without the music. What's your take on this back and forth and this the way, you know, music is being looked at?
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, as a composer, you know, I understand, and I'm sure you guys agree, that producing music is not just the beats and tracks you make with a song. There's other ways to produce. You could be doing sync licensing for film, television. You could be doing music for video games. There's other ways that you can monetize the art of creating. And later in my career, at this latter part of my career, I feel like I'm more cognizant of trying to find different nuances to earn a living as a creative, you know, like developing music for film content, you know, developing music for a commercial, developing music for a game. You know, I have nephews who are college graduates and heavy in the gaming industry. Like they're working in California for real gaming companies, and we bounce ideas off each other. They share with me what they deal with creating games for Star Wars and other stuff. They doing like dope things, and I inspire them because I make music, and they really want to get into like the scoring aspect. So we bounce ideas off each other. So yeah, I really definitely want to let these young producers know that there's different ways you could be creative and earn a living, not just produce the music or the song, but produce music for these other things that you could be making money off of.
That's dope. That's real.
What would you say right now when you know, if you look back on it for your whole time as your career, what would you say was probably the most challenging aspect of it all? as a producer trying to really run through this industry, because how hard it could be to really get in?
Two things. With the digital age, which I'm sure you guys probably are familiar and experienced too, just the value of the work, meaning that you got so many people on the internet doing beats for free, putting them up on YouTube, doing beats on these websites, selling beats for $50. So that the one thing I can say is a challenge is asserting my worth because of my resume, because of my history, because of my knowledge and my creative abilities, to make sure that some of these young people coming into me and want to work with me don't feel like what I'm asking for is too much, because they feel like they can get something alternative for practically nothing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like asserting the value of a working producer with a career resume in today's times is more of a challenge to get people willing to pay what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? That's the one thing. And I say the other thing would be dealing with the business and its ever changing and evolving way to make your money off your publishing, make your money off your streaming. We see in this in Congress they had the streaming rate, just that they're trying to change the streaming rate to bring it up, because it's just the digital age. We all know we're not making the money we deserve to make compared to the analog age, and when it was just like physical cassette, CD, vinyl, we made a lot more money faster. You know what I'm saying? We were able to get these plaques a lot faster. If you did a dope record on a dope album that was well marketed and you knew about it, you were going to benefit from that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Good.
Now we're dealing with a digital age where a really good record could get missed easily in the saturation of the digital world. And it could be as good as big as a record by Kanye West or Dr. Dre or whoever that people look up to on a competitive level of that quality, but it may get missed if it's not marketed. So I would say marketing music in the digital age is the other challenge, being able to make sure that the work you put out, the presence is felt, people are hearing and seeing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely
I know y'all thinking about it like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge, and a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of new artists that come in and they don't understand the value of a real producer with credentials, with experience, who's been around, who knows the business, who's lasted the test of time, and is still contributing. Some people don't really get it. Some people want the quick, oh, let me just get with this producer because he's cheaper, and but they're missing out on the jewels. They missing out the lessons, because there's a lot of lessons and jewels. And again, this is what this platform is for, to give these jewels and lessons, and a lot of these youngsters miss it, and then they complain later when they sign a bad deal, or they get a beat that's somebody else is using it. They thought it was exclusive, or they're not understanding the business. So absolutely, that is definitely like one of the challenges.
It's what we're trying to do is we're trying to really give folks lessons in longevity. And it's like we've seen artists come and go. And that's the luxury of being a producer. And I try to tell people that we don't really have expiration dates. If we choose to evolve our music, we can continue to do what we do. This is a lot of us just like to stay in the lane that we're in, but a lot of us don't really like to evolve in that type of situation. But I want the audience to kind of get an idea of like your networking, because you've worked with a lot of different folks. Like, what would you say is your real key thing that you were doing in terms of networking and getting to the artists and getting your beats, getting the placements that you were getting? Because again, we were talking about really big names.
Yeah, right. And for the audience who may have missed in the context of this dialogue, the resume, I'll just go through a little bit of it in the time frames to get people to understand me and who I am and what I've done. Like, started out in the 90s with Beatminerz, Black Moon, Smif Wessun, Helter Skelter, the whole Duck Down boot camp. Then into the early 2000s, I worked with Nas on Stillmatic. I worked with AZ on Asiatic when he was on Motown Records. I worked with AZ continuously for over the last 10, 15 years, maybe longer. working on his music on a lot of his projects ever since. Outside of that, I work with female rap legend Moni Love. You know what I'm saying? From her days, after her days with the Native Tongues, I've done a lot of stuff for her independently. Some music what was released in Europe. We did one single back in like 2000 that was released on Universal Records Europe and went gold overseas. And then in the recent years, we've worked records where I have a song with her, Sky Zoo, called The Vine, since streaming platforms, videos out. Another song I did with Nana Fofi, which is an up-and-coming singer from Ghana. She's from overseas. And she's featured on another song with Moni that's called One People, single and video out now. And I say all this because that's an example of how records might get missed, so you might not even know about it. So, yeah, and then fast forward to now, the way I did my networking was as the music landscape changed from the analog to the digital age, I did a lot of public appearances. I would go out to judge, music showcases or judge producer showcases and meet producers and advise them and mentor them. I would go to what we call song camps. So one of my good friends, his name is Jay Hatch. He does a platform where it's called Creative Space Events, and he does like a platform where he allows singers, rappers, songwriters, producers to converge in a 3-day like camp to develop songs and pitch for like placements either on albums or like maybe film and television. I'm actually going to participate in an upcoming song cast in June to support up and coming talent and just speak, my piece and share, you know what I mean, and network. And sometimes in these places, I meet new talent and I end up working with them. In some cases, I've did some collaborative productions on some people's records independently, or I've helped independent artists grow and build an audience and get record deals. I helped an artist named Lil Zell, originally from Jersey, but he now represents California. I got him signed to 300 Entertainment with my business partner, who happens to be his father, Antonio Velaz, and we started a company called Zarius Music Group, XMG. That's where you see the logos and information on the emails already on. I signed to 300 Entertainment right around the pandemic, like a month after the pandemic shut the city down, specifically New York, because I'm in New York. And we negotiated a 7-figure deal for him, so he was there for like 2.5, 3 years, put out some music, did collaborations with like Corda Ray, Tiger, and, now he's developing some new music and he's about to come back out. And of course, like I mentioned, I did the Do or Die 2 album by AZ. That was released in like 2021. And because I built a network behind the scenes as a working producer, I built relationships with managers of artists, label executives. What used to be A&Rs, we're in a digital age where A&Rs are almost non-existent now. But all of those nuances is how I maintain my career, by building those type of relationships behind the scenes, as well as making sure I'm out and about as it makes sense, and also build a relationship with the DJs. The DJs are the cornerstone of hip hop. And when you got the DJ supporting you, that gives you a life in itself. When you drop a record, the DJs are playing it, you know what I mean? So all of those combination of what keeps me alive. And, coming from the Beatminerz, shout out again to you, Mr. Wolf. I got back into DJing in the last 2 years and started doing events and parties and collaborating with some of my DJ associates from Queens, like DJ Mr. Effects, who's Master C's cousin and mentor. You know what I mean? So we built a production and DJ team called Untouchables DJs. I'm the main producer, but like we develop ideas together just for the DJ Foundation. And I did a compilation project, a DJ project last year that I put out under the Untouchables DJs names called Executive Decision. And I featured like AZ on there. I featured the homie from Queens, Royal Flush, because I did a remix project that still hasn't come out yet, where I remixed songs from his first album. So we're talking about remixes of songs featured Nori, featured Ja Rule, Mike Geronimo, the list goes on, yeah. And I've been quietly feeding through the DJ brand versions, these remixes on some of these projects to let people hear it before we put out a body of work. Because I don't know if the general public knows, or y'all might know, but it might have missed it, that Royal Flush announced that he's dealing with cancer. So he's been doing treatment. Yeah. He's dealing with cancer and he's being treated for it now for at least maybe 6 months now. So he has to pace his lifestyle now, in terms of just doing his music and take care of his health and his family. So, You know, we're definitely going to put something out this year, but it's yet to be determined when, because I want him to be, you know, up to speed, get out and promote it and support it and be in the mix and handle the business with me, you know. But yeah,
I see you've like, it's interesting when you look at the whole thing, like from where you've been to where you are now, and how you make sure that you're involved in a lot of different things to make sure that you continue to be relevant. You know, in being relevant, like, what is your take also on, you know, technology and how it's evolved? And, you know, there's some producers that don't like, you know, because, you know, we come from the drum machine, everything analog.
5 seconds there, please.
Right. And now it's to the point now that you got like beat packs and those things online where you could just click and drag and do that. Like, what is your take on technology and these beat packs?
Well, I definitely love the evolution of technology. And within my career story, I started with, like I mentioned, the SP1200, the SP12, the S950. I worked my way to the FPC 2000 in the 2000 decade. You know, 2000, I used the 3000. I've used the Renaissance, all Akai products, for those who may not know. And when some of these other products came out before the software game, I'm speaking still on the hardware, like, I forgot the name of it. RZA was using it for a second. Forgot the name of it. It just escaped my mind. But it was another drum machine.
ASRS. ASRS.
It wasn't an ASR. Machine.
Yeah, machine. Native.
Yeah. He was starting to use the Machine Pro. You know what I mean? I remember when the machine came out and I tried it out. And I made a few records and ideas with it, but I never stuck with it. I don't know. I regress back to Kai. Something about the Kai products keeps me coming, you know? And it's still here. You know, they got the MPC X, they got the MPC Studio. I got the Studio right here because it's very compact and it's easy to use. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like, I could just like use a USB, hook it up, and I have my like a Kai MIDI sync right here. Let me show this to you. Got it right here, you know. Oh, okay. On camera, you see it. It's a Kai MIDI, you know, the MPK.
Hardware.
Yeah.
Kai got to cut a check. They got to cut a check for Baby Paul. He advertised.
And Arkatech Beats, you know, for the promo. But yeah, you know, just simplify my setup and just work, you know. And but as far as the software game, I made sure that I always kept in tune. As far as recording, I'm familiar with using Pro Tools. I know how to use Logic. As far as libraries, I used to have Reason, Recycle. I started using Ableton earlier this year, and I actually like it. You know, as far as software beat making, I've been using Ableton Live, and but I still go back to the MP. That's something about the MP, man. Right?
Yeah.
It's so funny when you say that because it's like we're like Mike uses Machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have an MPC 2000 right here, but I don't use it. And then
right,
you know, so I had a machine. I have a machine. Let me not say I don't have a machine. I have a machine, but I don't use it. I think we did maybe like some early Freddie Gibbs with that. And then now we like I bounce between FL and Serato Studio. Like for whatever reason, Serato Studio right now, to me, is the easiest. I won't say that it's the best. I think FL kind of has. FL is real powerful in terms of making beats right now. I don't think people really, you know, don't give it the props. I want to get back into this.
I like FL. I've never really made records on FL, but I'm familiar with the software, and it's kind of because of FL I tried out Ableton because my engineer who mixes a lot of my records, he started making beats and using Ableton, and he inspired me to try it out. And along with that, you know, in terms of the gear that you had just mentioned, I was trying to see, compared to software and hardware, what works for me. As far as the packs too, Mike, it's interesting because, you know, they even have producer packs. You know, they have like the Alchemist pack or whatever. Yeah. And these are all my peers, and I'd be laughing because I've been approached to produce a pack. But here was the funny thing, and y'all gonna laugh. I felt like to give my sounds away, I wanted to give like those raw 90s sounds, like the SP1200. but it was hard to archive those sounds and transport them into digital format. So I never did it.
Without losing it. That's authentic.
Yeah, I never did it. I was offered to do a Baby Paul like beat pack like decades ago. You know, I never did it. You know what I'm saying? That could be some money for me. I dropped the ball on that, you know.
And because you would have to go back into the old equipment, because I tried to do that the other day, Mike. I ain't gonna hold you. I tried to load up some of the old stuff in the MPC. I'm a little bit tight that I still don't have the airsoft because I still have some zip discs that got airsoft sounds on them.
Right.
But you would have to dump them into Pro Tools, chop them up, process them.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like these are thousands of sounds. Like want to do that.
And I was being lazy. Yeah, that's exactly right. I could have did it, and y'all might have been like, "Yeah, I remember when the Baby Paul pack came out." You know what I mean? Like, I dropped the ball on that. You know. So but I was being very integral because, mind you, if I was just hustling, I could have just took any sounds and opposed to the sounds I gave my real records with, and just put it out with having a name on it. And it ain't even sounds that people could be like, yo, I'm looking for the drums he did on such and such. It ain't on there. You know what I mean? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep integrity. Yeah. And I knew that it was going to take work to do that. You know what I'm saying?
It's still a lane for it, Paul. It's still a lane for it. You gotta.
Did you have a hard time? Did you have a hard time transitioning from the analog hardware to the computer software kind of? Because I know I had it. Me and Jug had some back and forth about that. I'll tell you about it after.
Yeah, it was a learning process, and I'll admit I had to humble myself and say, you know what, if I don't know something, it don't hurt to ask. So like with my engineer example, he was one who was advised me in Ableton. He would give me a little tutorial, then I would just apply that to what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? And prior to that, you know, like when FL came out, some of the other young producers I knew was using it heavy. And I got familiar with it, and I think the version I had was 11. I don't know what version it is now.
20, right? 21 something, almost like.
So you see what I'm saying? See how long ago that was, right? I think either 11 or 12. I downloaded the version and I started playing with it, but then I shifted back to the MPC. So it wasn't until Ableton I said, you know what, I'm going to really try harder to make a beat completely on software. You know what I'm saying? And I did that. So, you know, some of the new records I have are all software produced records. But I do love the raw sound of drum programming on a machine. It's like I'm conflicted because the technology advancements allow you to have cleaner sounds, but those raw sounds of that 16-bit, you know, that came from the 90s, certain hip hop records, that sound just works better. That, you know what I'm saying? You want
slap harder.
But now we're in a technology age where, you know, you want that bass to be clean. Like, you know, these records that have all that sub bass in it, you know, 808 drums and, you know, claps and snaps and certain things that you hear in a lot of today's production. You got to have that software technology to be able to get that clean sound and that bounce, you know what I'm saying, and that bass, you know. So
for production, like what for aspiring producers as well as aspiring artists, if you had to give them any type of tips or any type of tricks or clues or, you know, advice, you know, what would you give them?
I would start with the creative advice. Creatively, I say don't fall victim to just what's hot on the radio. It's important to create your own niche. You know, it's good to be competitive because I'm competitive. If I hear somebody's record, I'm like, are you doing that? I have to do this. You know what I'm saying? That's just in me. You know what I'm saying? Yep. But don't just blatantly copy that and expect to get a placement because what happens is even if you do get that placement, now your longevity could become in question because you sound just like that record that came out. Now, who's going to come to you for that next record or that next record or the next record? Personally, this is just my choice. I try to be a chameleon. Every time I'm working on something new, I try to identify myself within that record and that artist and just do something that stands out for that. And then the next record, I challenge myself again. So I kind of operate like a chameleon. Like with the exception of my earlier career, like a lot of my sound was probably more consistent sounding in terms of the drums I would use. You know, some producers might use the same drums on a couple of different beats, or use the same sequence arrangements on their music that gives it a cohesiveness. I try to challenge myself to the point where you almost don't know it's me, but it's just dope. You know what I'm saying? But that works for me. Not everybody would agree with that, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Some people want to have sound,
but that
identify sound, yeah,
But that keeps you kind of like gives you more range. I would say, because now
that's exactly why I do it like that. Because I study in the greats, what they call Uber producers. They're able to diversify themselves. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily put in a box. You could do a pop record. You could do a hip hop record. You could do an Afrobeat record. You could do a reggae record. You could do an R&B record. And even if there is some kind of cohesiveness in the techniques you use, it's just different, based on the artist and how they translate it. And, you're able to come back and do something different again and again and again, And personally, that works for me. But, I mean, a lot of the well-known, very well-known producers have a consistent sound, and that's working for them. So I'm not here to tell nobody not to do that if that's what they choose to do.
Well, I know a lot of the producers that we came up with, and even before us, they had a consistent sound that we could recognize. Like we know that RZA B, we know Eric Sermon, Premier, and that's dope. And I think that there's a time and place for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like that I think that was dope for what it is. And but then you also have your producers that may want to move around and try different things. Because even for us, we have our favorite producers, which is some of them I just mentioned, but we also want to make sure that we have, we're able, because this is a business also.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And I'm gonna tell you a quick story. When the technology advanced, and Jug was like, "Oh, we gotta check this software out." I was like, "No, I'm MPC, drum machine, Timberlands on."
I get it.
I refuse. I was on something. I am not changing. This is what I am. I got my hoodie on. I'm in the trenches. This is what I'm doing. But then,
and I get that. And shout out to my alma mater. They're the same way. Beatminerz, they're not going to change how they take their approach to music. Yeah.
But Jug brought something to my attention about just this isn't just music. It's also the music business. And you have to grow and see what the market is, and you got to be able to change and adapt. If you want to get this bag, if you want to get that bag, you're going to have to go in those markets, because there are times we have to go to Atlanta and check the clientele. Their money good too, but you got to make sure you got the product. You know what I'm saying? So,
and as you know, Mike, Atlanta's very cliquish.
Very, it was funny because it was funny because when we first started coming out here, it like before I actually moved, because I actually moved out here, so I was I was in the Bronx when we started everything, and then we moved out here. It was just like they messed with us. I'm not even gonna hold them. They told us we could come through, but it was trying to get our sound to where they would rock with it. You know what I mean? And that was where the challenge was getting the sound. I remember us doing the joint with Shorty Low, and he just kept turning up the bass on the 808 because it wasn't quite the right 808, but he kept like, "Yo, we got to get it to," and we were like, "What's wrong with it?" And he was just like, "Nah, we need it to sound like," and it was just trying to understand that situation, but it was like, it was difficult at the time because we really love sampling. Sampling is our, that's what made us. You know what I mean? And then going from that to no samples at all during that, late 2000s, 08, 09, it was tough. But eventually we were able to kind of evolve. And a lot of time we just try to tell the people that are watching the same way, like you said, hey, I'm rocking with Ableton. Try it. You know what I mean? Like everybody is just, like it'll help to kind of keep you relevant and just knowing what the technology is, because different software can do different things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Serato and them had the stem separator. Everybody now is getting the stem separator. Serato been had
Now
it.
got it. Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Bro,
when I got on
I just want
Serato,
to say on that subject, I just got to say I've been making beats with stem separation technology for about a year.
see what I'm saying?
I got records coming out like now, this summer. I've been, like it's crazy. So you're right. You're right.
And then Ableton used to have this thing where you can, convert everything to MIDI, take sample. Like Ableton had all these different things. And I'm like, yo, Mike, you seen this? And I was on Ableton for a while, and I was in Logic for a while, and just trying to. Each platform has its pros, has its cons, but you just have to decide what you want to use it for. But I had another question that I wanted to ask you, in terms of the business side. In your career, and how can we tell to our younger audience, like, what would you say was like one of the better business decisions you made with regards to your career, and then what was one of the worst deals that you may have dealt with, as far as your career?
This episode of the Arkatech Beats Music Business Podcast is brought to you by our own ebooks, the Songwriter's Guide to Song Registration, the Musician's Guide to Music Copyrights, the Musician's Guide to Music Publishing, and the Ultimate Guide to Forming Your Own Music LLC. All of these books are really essential for artists, producers, musicians to really learn how to navigate the music industry and how to really make a living off of your art. So just make sure you go pick those up. Those are available at arkatechbeats.com. We're going to put a link in the description, and thank you guys for supporting.
Okay. I'll start with the worst first. You ready? Yeah. It's going to blow your mind. I had a mill signed to me after she left Rockefeller.
Get out of here. Wait, did I know that? No.
For me in Rockefeller Records, I had a mill signed to me. Shout out to the mill. This is around 2008, 2009. You can Google it. So we did a whole project called A Mill Returns, right? It was originally supposed to be like a street album. I did a deal with Baby Grand Records. Do you remember Baby Grand Records?
I remember.
Yeah.
It was an independent label in the 2000s that was putting out like independent hip hop, and they were giving out budgets. The owner, he was one of the financiers of the movie Soul Plane.
Okay.
One of the earlier movies in Kevin Hart's career. He owned Baby Grand Records. So we did a deal. We committed to a certain budget, and then there was delays on that budget opening up. I was trying to find out why. And then I found out he did a deal with Nori, and he paid Swizz Beatz and Pharrell gobs of money to produce the music. And that soaked up his budget because he had like a parent distributor with the deal structure he had to cover the costs of funding the deals he did. So I did my deal for putting out a Mills project first, and I had production from me, I had production from Easy Mo B, I had production from Kwame, all lined up, and I was the executive producer, right? Because that happened, and the label couldn't commit to our budget contractually, I had to shelve the project because without no money, I can't pay Moby, I can't pay Kwame for their production, I can't pay for some marketing. I had Keisha Cole lined up as a feature on one of the songs as a single. It was crazy. So I shelved the project and I let the mill out of her contract. Like so I defaulted the deal with Baby Grand and then let her out of the contract with my company so she could be a free agent again. All I did was put out a mixtape called A Mill Returns. It's on YouTube. You can Google it. I leaked some of the songs that was for that album and just let it go. We still keep in touch with friends. We've collaborated a few times independently on other things, but yeah, that was the worst deal situation throughout my career. Damn. I can speak on it now because back when I did it, it was like what they call that, where you can't talk about
something. Gag order.
Like a gag order.
It was kind of like a gag order for like within that first year. Yeah. Like I can't talk about it. You know what I mean? So I never talked about it publicly for really until now. Like, y'all the first ones I actually talked about that.
You weren't able to sue for that? I'm just curious. Like you weren't able to, because if you had, go ahead.
I could have, but then again, if I hire an attorney, I got to pay money for that. And I'm in a situation where I did a deal with him to get money and he never did it. And she was so frustrated after a period of time, and I'm going back and forth for him, that she just wanted out of the situation. She's like, fuck him. Let's just keep it moving. Let me get me off of that situation. And so I let her go, because she's the artist. So she made the call. I did.
Right.
I was to play the executive producer. She trusted me with her career at that point because, respected my work and all that I've done. And again, it goes back to networking. She was within my network through other people that we all know. And I started giving her beats, and that's how she started working with me. And then I was like, you need to put out a whole project. Let me executive produce it, and I'll get you picked up, And I took it to Baby Brand. They showed the interest, gave me the deal. I won't even say the amount of money that they had agreed to. It was close to 100,000. But it was independent. And it was enough to do what we needed to do. You know what I mean? At that time. Wow. It happened. Now, the best deal I did was what I mentioned earlier with my business partner, Antonio Velaz, Xario's music group. Shout out to Little Zell. I got him signed in 2020 to a 7-figure deal with 300 Entertainment. We was dealing directly with the executives, Kevin Miles, the whole nine, back and forth. And the one thing I can mention about that deal was he kept his publishing, he kept his master ownership, he kept his tour rights. Because 360 deals now, they try to buy into all that when they give you money. Yeah, so that was the best deal I did in my entire career. Those are the two worst and best deals of my entire career.
How are you able to navigate that?
And the other was 2020.
Because with 300 was basically the guys that were really doing 360 deals. How are you guys able to navigate that deal in such a way where they didn't get their hands into all of the revenue?
I gotta give myself some props. I've been dealing with this industry for so long. Experiences like that, a mill deal, taught me a lot. You know what I mean? And I built relationships with attorneys. Shout out to Theo Sotomayor, one of the attorneys that represented me early in my career. He's worked with 50, Eminem, Paul Rosenberg, the list goes on. He represented me when I did Stillmatic. He represented me when I did Asiatic, negotiated those deals. And I still archive all my contracts since the 90s to now. I keep copies, physical copies that are saved in digital files now, like PDFs. You know what I mean? And studying and reading these contracts and doing deals. But like I said, I even did a deal with Raucus, the Beatminerz album, Brace for Impact. Remember, if y'all remember that, that was around 2000, 2001. And I learned from that situation, which is a whole nother conversation. I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. But
go ahead with it.
All those projects and deals taught me a lot. Long story short, with the deal with Raucus, this was around 2000. We did the deal, and the Beatminerz didn't want us to have two different attorneys. Theo Sotomayor represented me. An attorney named Brad Rubin represented them. And it was like, yo, BP, we got a good situation. We got a nice deal on the table. We don't want to make this a rocket science and then drawn out. You know how attorneys get and people greedy and it take up time. We want to put out music. Let's just close the deal with one attorney. Friendship versus business. That's my friends, but also my comrades in music. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a team player because I know Sotomayor. He's a tough attorney. That's why he's still successful. Right. And I told Theo that I wasn't gonna use him to be a part of the negotiating process, and he wasn't mad. He was just like, okay, it's about being in your best interest, but if that's what you want to do, go right ahead. So we did the deal. The deal wasn't a terrible deal, so that wasn't the argument. But like throughout the process of making that album with Raucus, we exhausted a lot of money budget wise because of samples that we paid for that declared that were like in the thousands. Like I don't even want to disclose the numbers, just samples to clear on certain records. Yeah. Then we had songs with artists, like the MOPs, Kweli, Busta, Ghostface, Exhibit, all of these artists on this album. And remember, you know how when you do a record, if you're doing an album, you got to clear the label too, not just the artist. So hypothetical, Exhibit, MOP, they want live records. Busta's on Elektra back then. These are examples. And imagine having to pay to clear these artists along with the fee of their feature. Yeah. And then at that time, Loud Records and Priority Records was having what we call label wars behind the scenes. So to compete in terms of what they were putting out each quarter and monetizing their artists, they would like compete and they wouldn't want to clear something because they didn't want the other company to benefit.
Yeah.
Their artists that they have signed to their label before they come out. So that's what we call label wars. And we dealt with a lot of that around that time, trying to make that out. So a lot of time and money was wasted. And that was the beginning of the end for me, business-wise, with the Beatminerz, and that's why I left.
Oh, wow.
And that was 2001. Within that year, I did not Stillmatic, and I moved on ever since.
So you know, Mike, you know, if you think about it, back when, you know, Rawkus was really bubbling at that time, I could see the labels not wanting to lend their talent to Rawkus because Rawkus was really getting that momentum.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So
Rawkus was was trying to be on our heels out loud, and then
compete with Def Jam back
and loud. Loud. We was really aiming at competing with Def Jam. That's where we, was trying to compete with, and Rawkus was right there on Loud's heels. But
and for the listeners that are listening, Loud Records is the label that was behind Mobb Deep, Big Pun, and
Wu-Tang.
This goes on.
Wu-Tang. Yeah, I mean, our listeners know, being that being Jug worked at Loud Records as A&R, so our audience is fully aware. Well, they better be aware.
That time, were you out there at that time? Do you remember that?
For that particular moment?
2001.
We had our production deal at that time.
We signed. When I say we, I'm talking about the Beatminerz, myself, EUD, Mr. War, as the Beatminerz. We signed a Rawkus around that time. The only other deals they had was, of course, Mos Def, Quali, High Tech. They did a deal with Coogee Rap after us for a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was just a crazy time, man. Them label wars was serious, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm sure y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we was there. We and on some projects, MOP and Raekwon, and being part of all of that. So it was a great time, though, man. I enjoyed that time.
As far as the music, it was a great time, but the business, it got convoluted. At least from my experience, dealing with that type of scenario, with the deal that we had, and the project that we had to deliver. That was the complications we had to deal with.
So when you look back at it,
like I said, all that,
when you look back at it in retrospect, what could we have done to have made it work the right way? Would it have been less samples? Would it have been less features? Would it have been
for that specific project?
Yeah, for that specific thing, like
less samples.
That specific project, we would have definitely had to govern the sample usage, meaning that if we're gonna do something sample driven, make it less recognizable instead of like main loops or main sequences where that was around the time the sample game was no joke because of all those laws that changed after the lawsuits of Biz Markie and the Turtles with De La Soul. That changed everything. So anything you did on a label with a budget, you had to clear it. If it's familiar or recognizable, there's companies like DMG, Deborah Man Squad, and certain companies that all they do is look for. They try to catch you. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yep.
I don't know what happened in the digital age. I don't know if y'all agree with me. In this digital age where we are now, people are not paying attention as much.
It's too much music. They can't keep up.
Yeah. But back then, it was not a game. We had to pay for those records, bro.
Really? So really, it's funny you say that, because even when we were doing like the immobilarity, like samples killed us. Like samples hurt us so bad. Like the album that the public would have gotten would have been totally different from what we actually, because it wouldn't clear. You know what I mean? And then what we started to do is,
I think that's what forced a lot of hip hop, like y'all said, in the latter part of the first decade of the 2000s, forced producers to compose. They couldn't clear. They were losing money. Yeah, that's deep. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, we did so much music with Raekwon, and they like so many couldn't get cleared, and it was just a messed up situation that we had a vision, we had a plan, and we couldn't execute it the way we needed to execute.
Because the art got compromised, right? Yeah,
Right. So,
Yeah,
so
because it was ill because not only was we going to get raped on the clearance, but you're going to get raped on the publishing, right? But we were able to kind of find like one or two composers that really wanted us to sample their music, and then we had developed a relationship with one of those guys, and then we were able to sample his music for Nas. So in that kind of situation, we had a go-to guy who gave us the sound that we wanted, but on Ray's album, we was sampling damn near like Conan the Barbarian and and all this type of stuff.
I'll give you all a jewel since you brought up Nas and we're talking about sample clearances and publishing. So on the track Destroy and Rebuild.
Love that record, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Shout out to my guy Mike Risco. He played the keys on there for me. That track wasn't a sample.
What?
But yeah, that was all played. That was played on a Roland 1010 rack keyboard.
Got it.
Triggered sounds. It's on a Roland 1010. So we had no samples in the beat, right? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Finish the record. Think about the hook, y'all. The bridge is over. The bridge is over.
There we go. There you go.
You ready?
He got to pay for that.
When we turn the master in, they have to turn in the writer's credits and the publishing. To this day, KRS-One gets 33.3% publishing on my record.
Yes.
Because of the hook.
Because of the hook, yeah.
Because he sang the hook. So he gets a writer's share of the song.
Yeah.
So I paid it forward to KRS-One. You're welcome. I'm saying that on y'all show, so please post it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna take responsibility even more than Nas because I made the record, which led to him getting.
Were you there? Were you there at the studio session for Nas?
Absolutely.
Please tell us what that was like.
Tell your experience, your Nas experience, because I know experiences.
So I'm gonna shout out Lenny Nicholson, who remember was the A&R at Sony.
Yes.
Signed over there before A. Marie and all that. He contacted me about the placement and said, okay, we're going to finish the record at Right Track Studios in Times Square. The song was, he started recording his vocals in the Bahamas when he worked on that album. Some of that album was recorded away from the States because, he needed to get away, just dealing with a lot, of course.
Yeah.
And I came to the studio, he vibed with me. He was like, yo, what made you make that beat? That was one of the first things he asked me, and I never answered that. I knew what inspired me to make the music, but I just never answered him. The truth was I was inspired by this song Alchemist produced called Bang Bang, CNN and Fox.
CNN, yes.
If you listen to the drum patterns, that was my inspiration on how I programmed the beat.
Oh.
Right? Now you think about what I'm saying. You think of the musicality of the drums, and then you listen to my record. It's like, oh,
okay.
And the funny thing is, Alchemist was in my session when I was finishing the record. Ironically, right? Not the Alchemist. So, when we were recording, he was like, "Yo, I laid most of it, but I want you to tell me what you think." So he played the vocals, and I was just like, "Wow." And Jay-Z, shit, all right.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, fuck it. This is Nas. He's a legend. This is a great opportunity. I'm gonna kill this record no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So as we going through the record, and then I hear what he was saying in the outro, he was saying crazy. So I was like, I think with the concept of the record, you can be a little bit less aggressive in what you're saying on the outro. So he recut the outro with me, what I mean, to what y'all hear today.
So it was harder. What he was saying was more harsh.
Yeah, much more harsh. Rest in peace to Project. Shout out to everybody. I have to say that. And he cleaned it up as far as the outro, and then I mixed it. And we got to talk a little bit in the studio vibe. I remember I had a DVD of The Story of Death Row. Death Row Records.
Yeah.
And we watched it together in the lounge in the studio and just kicked it. You know, I remember the conversations we were having about Interscope and, you know, his relationship dynamic with Pac at that time. And,
Wow.
you know, I mean, not at that time because it was before he passed, of course. You know, by the time I worked, it was 2000, 2001. But anyway, the point is, we did get to kick it. We did get the vibe. I did get to be in the studio with him. And when I finished the record, I just was like, thank you. This is an honor. You know what I'm saying?
I know you were like, oh man.
I made that point clear to him, you know, I was working with him. And the feedback I got when that record came out, shout out to rest in peace to DJ K Slade. He was the first DJ to play it, then Clue. And then when I ran into my peers who was on that album, like Primo or Large or whoever, they was just like, yo, even Tip, yo, let's join, yo. I'm like, okay. I feel like for me, I feel like I made it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because these are my peers I was fans of before I came in the game.
Yeah.
So that level of acknowledgement for that song meant a lot for me. Not just that I worked with Nas on an important album, but the producers who were part of his career in the very beginning, his first album.
Right.
Now the work I did on this album. So can't nobody tell me nothing.
Yeah, that's the right.
You know,
Like
if I start making records tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned, creatively, in terms of respect and the culture, I made it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I really want to give you your flowers, bro, because if you think about that album, that was the album that changed the course of Nas' career. If you think about how everything was going crazy, and then the ether, and then that being part of that, and that kind of, he put his foot down, said that I'm the GOAT. And then from that album on, he continued to just do what he still continues to do. And it's just amazing to see his relevancy to this day. And for us to be part of that club that say, hey, he produced for him. You know what I mean? Like that's a
y'all, man.
It's a club, like, you know what I mean? Like that's because he is the pinnacle of New York hip hop. And the people don't seem to understand how big that is.
And the cultural relevance of being a part of his career story will always be there, you know? From Stillmatic to now, like, people are always going to revel his body of work.
Yep.
So us as producers could be like, yo, I'm a part of that. I worked with him on this album or that album. Like, oh, that's dope. You know, it's like a rite of passage to work with him. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But one thing I did enjoy about working with Nas was how he double checked in with us on, like, he valued what we thought about the record. Like how you feel, because not every artist is like that. Not every artist. We work with a few artists in egos, and you know. But Nas was a treat. Nas, like, after he was done, or even before he's writing, he just split the verse and asks, yo, how that sound? Do I need to do this or whatever? And he actually valued our opinions. And we didn't have a lot of work out at the time when we worked with him, but he valued our opinion on the records, you know, and you know, he's one of my favorite, you know, artists of all time, you know. So salute to Nas and salute to you, you know.
And I'll just say congrats to Nas. He's celebrating the 30th anniversary of Stillmatic these days. Out the humanity, you know, they running around taking pictures together, showing, you know. If you look on the social media, you know, shout out to him, the record too, yeah.
So I got a question that I'm dying to ask you, and I know everybody, and maybe even yourself, you've been trying to get this going. A Nas and AZ album.
What's it gonna take?
What's it gonna take to make this happen?
I'll just say this. After I did the Essence, which was AZ and Nas 2002 on the Asiatic album, the buzz of that was pending. And what I say, not just the fans, but the business of it, the labels, right? I remember going to Lenny Nicholson about it after the song came out. And y'all ready for this? And I'm being totally transparent. He said to me, I don't like that record. He didn't like my record, The Essence. I was like, okay, I respect your opinion. That's cool. And then, you know, he said, whatever the case is, I'll try to make up for it when they do an album together. And he was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And he was like, what? I was like, why not? He said, AZ don't sell enough records. That's what he told me.
So basically, it was based on business versus what the culture wants.
Exactly. That's why it's never happened. And weirdly enough, you've seen Nas make an album with Damian Marley. You've seen him do collaborations with everybody, the Swiss Beats, the Rick Rosses, the list goes.
But what about now? Now that Nas is in a place where, it ain't about the money or the business or the people behind him. It's more about, putting something down for the culture that's going to stand the test of time, and be very creative and giving us what we want. What are the chances of that happening like now?
I really hope so. And the best part is, to answer what I just said, A's been working and standing on his own too, maintaining his relevancy in the market in a very big way. The Do or Die 2 album was well received. We did our thing on that. He just did an album with Buck Wild called Truth Be Told. Shout out to Buck Wild. You know what I'm saying? He's about to do a tour off that album in Europe, I think in Europe or somewhere, but he's working. So him maintaining his relevancy and fan base plays a part in them two collaborating. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately, man, it shouldn't be just about record sales. But like you just said, Nas is in the space, not just financially, but in terms of business, he's doing what he wants. Because he finally circling back and doing a premiere album.
Right.
Maybe after that, he'll come and be like, you know what, hey, let's go. It's time.
Yeah, I think
you best believe.
It's whack when business is in a way like that.
Best believe I got slugged in the table waiting for that.
It's so funny when
Mike is like, we just put some shit and be ready.
I'm not even gonna hold y'all, but that's what it might take. It might take us having a little bit of a forum, get the guys who are part of the Nas alma mater, put together the records, and say, hey, what's up? Let's put it in, because at the end of the day, like you said, like he's in a different lane right now. He's basically legacy driven. So now we're not worried about numbers, videos. He ain't worried about none of that. So if this is going to be good for the culture, having the guys that he's already worked with and AZ's already worked with produce that album, so we know that it's going to be pure. What's the hold up on that?
And here's what I say. On my level, in my side of the world, I'm working sure to maintain my relevancy as a working producer, to maintain the credibility and respect. So when that situation does come about, I could be among the callers like, what's up? I need that. I call A like quick, like, what's up? Here's some ideas,
Yeah.
That's it. Let's see. I've been waiting for it since the Essence. That's 2002.
Man, that would
go a whole album together. And I know the contemporaries are going to step to the plate. The LESs, the Primos, the largest. So I got work to do. We all got work to do.
That's what's up.
So they're going to step to the table first.
Listen, get the folks where they can find you, man.
Let's manifest this, man.
Manifest it, yeah.
On Instagram, on Instagram, Baby Paul BpZy. That's BabyPaul BpZy. That's my Instagram. I'm mostly on Instagram. I got a TikTok page. I don't use it. I can't keep up with these kids and these trends. I could be marketing my own music on another level on TikTok, but I admit that. But I just stick with the gram. It's the most fun I have when it comes to social media. Is the gram, That's how we keep in touch. You know what I mean?
just use what you call it. There's an app that you could just make all your content just go straight over, so you don't even got to worry. Nah, it's a repurpose app that you can use, and then you just, you know what I'm saying, so that you can have a presence on there without necessarily being on there.
Right. I'm on Facebook too, but I'm it's mostly gram as far as my music marketing and stuff and promoting what I'm doing. I'm not on Twitter. I had an account, I deleted it. Twitter's just too ratchet for me, man. Too many other chicks just throwing too much stuff up there. I don't feel like dealing with it. You know what I mean? And trust me, I don't mind looking at it, but I'm in a relationship and I'm happy. I want no problems. I can be talking to her, and let's say I go to Twitter and my feet pop up, titties, ass, everything. Like, what are you doing? I can't do that. Yeah, I can't do that. Man. I want no problem. But yeah, man. Instagram, Baby Paul BpZy, as well as the DJ page, official_untouchables DJ. Shout out to DJ Mr. Effects. For those who want to check out the first volume of Executive Decision, it's in DSPs now. Features by AZ, or Flush, Nori, a couple of new artists to check out. Next volume coming this summer. You know what I mean?
So before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, about some current events that's going on right now. Like, what's your take on this Drizzy versus?
Oh my God. Bro. Before I logged on, I was on the computer listening to this new Drake with the AI.
Yes.
The Pac and Snoop AI.
Yes.
Listening to Chris Brown going at Quavo.
Oh, yeah.
And I was killing this too. Chris Brown writes.
Chris writes.
That's why he's so consistent and be flooding the market with music, because he writes. He ain't got to wait for nobody.
Right.
And he can rap. I'm not gonna say he's one of the best rappers you ever heard, but for a singer to rap, he kind of did his thing on that record.
I didn't hear that yet.
Yeah, just go to YouTube when we hang up.
Let's go back a little bit. What is because it's so much right here.
I know.
What is your take on J. Cole apologizing?
I'm conflicted because being older, I understand you just want to dead it before it gets crazy and somebody get hurt. Because honestly, if you listen to J. Cole's record, it was crazy. And he was talking real tough on that song, especially the second half when the beat changes.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was hearing gun talk on that part of the verse.
When you talk about which one? The first one?
The 7. That's the 7-minute drill where he had 2 beats.
Yeah. Okay.
Spin it, and then it changed to the second beat, the slower, like more boom bap-ish beat.
Yeah.
He was talking real tough on that record, bro.
I think he got gas.
And you gotta understand. You got the whole West Coast peeping that, and we already dealt with Big and Pop. It can easily lean into like not the artists, but the people behind them.
People behind it.
And it could get ugly. You know what I mean? So I think he recognized that and he caught himself, because majority of J. Cole's music, he's very lyrical and he's very competitive, but he's a spiritual dude. He puts music out for the sake of inspiring and motivating and empowering people. That's like his MO as an artist. Right. So to go that route and that becoming so highly regarded at that moment, the attention you get from it is like, you know what? I don't want people to just know me for this,
Okay.
And I think that's why he apologized. I understand in terms of the cultural aspect of the protecting the negativity that could permeate from there. I think that's why he apologized. But then the competitive side is like people like, man, don't apologize. This is just bar it up, man. Go at him. Or and the streets is gonna always ride with you to be going at things. You know what I'm saying? So
unfortunately, you can't really separate it. You can't go hard and then expect like
peace. Right.
That's a good perspective though, because that would to say that basically he's looking at it like there was no way for it to stop from being violent. Eventually,
it could have led to that. Just on how he ended it and wait for his response, and then again, he kind of represents the East Coast, even though he's not necessarily saying he's from New York, he's from the Carolinas or whatever, but he's on this side.
Right.
That's the West side. So that means anytime he goes to LA on a tour or doing an arena, you gotta be ready for that.
So what do you
anything you say on these records, you gotta back it up.
So what do you feel about then Drake responding with a Snoop and Pac AI?
That's kind of crazy. I didn't expect that. You know what? I thought it was a whole AI record, like people just throwing something on the internet.
But when
I heard it first, I'm like, wait a minute. That sounded like he really did him saying
that's his flow. That's Drake's flow. Like rap.
I hear it.
Yeah.
Each verse is him rhyming, but he's translating the voice using the AI.
Right.
Yeah. It's actually kind of genius when you think about it.
It's very genius. It's genius.
Creatively, it's genius. That's what I was just telling my DJ partner when I was listening to it before I got on the line with y'all. I said, the way he put this together is genius. Because now, if you listen to the first verse, using Pac's voice, he's dissing himself.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He did an 8 Mile. He did an 8 Mile.
Yeah. He's personifying Pac, and Pac was talking about him.
Right. Right.
And then he passed it on to Snoop, and Snoop is talking to Kendrick
like, yo,
what's up?
We gave you the torch. You passed the torch to you. You gotta hold us down.
Right. But then he comes in and he says what he said. It's kind of genius. And I love how Drake is so strategic with all of the things he does as an artist, and then when he has to defend himself as a rapper. You know, whether it's ghostwritten or not, this shit is dope.
It definitely makes it exciting again. So what do you think it's gonna go? Last question. What do you think it's gonna go?
I think Kendrick is gonna respond and show who he is, and we're gonna, deal with how talented he is. When that happens, I feel that I don't know if y'all heard the Kanye record. Kanye jumped on the record.
Yeah.
Crazy, but I love Kanye, that's my guy. But lyrically, he's out of the running right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
He tried to shit on J. Cole though.
He sure did. He sure did.
Yo, this whole interview was dope, bro. But yeah, that was interesting. You know what I mean? And the Rick Ross record, I was kind of disappointed because he could rap, but it didn't stay with me. All he was doing is dissing White Boy. That's the only thing that stood out. None of the rhymes stood out to me.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I take it. You know what I mean? So,
well,
it's funny, boy, because but it's exciting. Mike was saying that last week when we was talking about a lot of it. He was like, yeah, the shit has been boring the last 2 years, 3-4 years. The shit been boring. Like finally, some hip hop shit happening. He's like, this is what we want to see. And he's like, I'm mad that J. Cole bowed out. He's like, he tucked his tail. I was just hard on him.
And the funny thing is, the guys under him was beefing because one of the cats from Dreamville is dissing Simba. Because Simba,
yeah. I saw that.
For pilots. Yeah, and I was listening to that too. And for me, at first, and I'm gonna speak before I heard the new Drake record, and before I heard, it was right after I heard the Ross record. I just was like, man, all these dudes was getting money, they rich. Why are they even waste the energy taking the time to go at each other? I mean, the one side is entertaining, but it's like, unless it's like really like super lyrical thought process, like the Nas Jay-Z level, like going at it, I was just like, I miss me with that.
Right.
Bad for the culture. But when this new Drake record came out, I got it detained again. I'm like, okay, I want to see how this unfolds because that was dope.
And the way he's actually really now saying, we're waiting on you, Kendrick. Like,
yeah, because he's calling him out. It's like, and he's really singing
calling him out. He's saying,
you come back out. Yeah,
he's gonna make him crack under that pressure.
You think?
Yeah, it's just that's what he's doing. He's loading up the bomb, like you make yourself implode.
What's deep is he's challenging him not just as a lyricist, but on the business and the money, because he's throwing little jabs at the business of Kendrick, his team, and how he ain't really getting what he should be getting for where he's at, and he's using that against him. So I want to see how Kendrick responds.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Look, we're all ladies
ladies and gentlemen, Baby Paul.
Thanks, man.
Yo,
I want to share a nice announcement, but I'm going to let you finish, Mike. Go ahead.
Man, just, thank you for your contribution to this hip hop game, man. And thank you for everything you've done. With all the music that you put out, it's inspired not just us, but so many others. And, there's a lot of producers, a lot of artists that listen to the music that we put down. And sometimes we don't realize how much we affected their lives, whether it's got them out of a jam or inspired them, helped them through a tough time, or whatever, inspired them to become a producer themselves or artist themselves or whatever. And, we got to highlight these producers. And today we're highlighting you, so we want to give you your flowers and say thank you. If you haven't gotten a thank you from any of these artists or producers or fans, Arkatech Beatz, Mike D. Juck, we want to thank you for your contribution.
Thank you, man.
I
mean, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. And I want to salute y'all for what y'all doing for the culture, building this platform to speak to other creatives like myself and all the others that you're going to continue to represent and curate for the culture. And I want to share 2 announcements. One is, the interesting thing is, salute to y'all. I'm actually developing a content series myself that I'm going to launch in the summer with producer Prestige, formerly of Bad Boy Hitman.
Oh,
And it's going to be called Hip Mob. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and we're going to cover the whole spectrum right along with what you guys are doing, so we all can be in a space to offer the producers a story. You guys are, no disrespect to all the other platforms, whether it's the Jig Tramps, the Mav Hoffers, the Joe Butters, not enough producers are getting highlighted. Not enough of their stories are being told. Not enough of the music is being explained.
Yep.
And it takes content series like yourself and what I want to bring to the table as well. You know, I'm actually going to be doing it live from a production studio, and I'm sure I'm going to have y'all on there just like I've been on y'all platform.
Absolutely.
We're going to share the wealth, so we all push each other forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're going to push the culture. They got to learn. They got to know. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And then just on the music front, you know, Untouchable DJs, Executive Decision Volume 2 coming, Royal Flush Remix Project coming, New Modi Love music coming. I'm working with a group out of the Bronx named Fajay Orion, the up and coming new group. There are no rap duos in the game right now.
I was looking for that.
These groups. You know, we lost Migos to an extent. You know what I mean? The rest in peace, take off. And you know, there's what's that group? Ray Shrummer, remember from Atlanta?
Yeah,
they were kind of doing their thing. There's no duos. So there's
no Mob Deep. There's no CNNs.
Right. So I just want to specifically point out that I've been collaborating with this group out of the Bronx, and it's a 2-man group. They have a single out called Boom Bitch. I didn't produce it, but it was their first record to just introduce themselves in the market. And then I did like 3 records for their album, and they got features from like 3 6 Mafia and a few other people on there. It should be pretty dope. And yeah, I have a single coming out this summer with them. And the last thing I want to mention is I developed some records with some songwriters out of Europe for Mary J. Blige's new album. So hopefully that pans out well. Look out for that. And just keep supporting me, man. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate all the fans who keep me, you know, alive and keep me working and the phone keep ringing, man. Because it's hard out here for a pimp. You know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier in the episode, I'm a grown-ass man, though, but I'm still here.
No doubt.
You know?
Feel you in there, my brother. Appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing it on the platform. For everybody that's been watching, I want to thank y'all for watching. If y'all haven't already subscribed to the channel, it's Arkatech Beatz, Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. Till next time, everybody, stay safe and peace.
Peace. Bless.